everybody, is being reported in the news is that the Elliott State Forest was formed for no other purpose than to provide revenue to the Common Schools Fund.
The Elliott State Forest is what is known as Common School Fund lands. When we became a state, the federal government gave us some sections in order to help provide revenue for the states to provide for public education. And those Section 6 and 36, which we got out of every township range, were consolidated into the Elliott State Forest. Now, so it's important, you know, that our schools, our education for our children is well provided for. Unfortunately, the Elliott has never really been a big part of that common school fund. There are many things that go into that fund, including, you know, the grazing revenue from Eastern Oregon, a sale of unclaimed property, and a lot of and so the Elliott, the amount of money from the Elliott is not very much compared to everything else that goes into that fund. It's also required that this common school funds are gained only with sound environmental ethics. So it is a constitutional mandate for the funds to go to the Common School Fund for education under sound environmental ethics. So in 1995, when Oregon Department of Forestry agreed to the Habitat Conservation Plan, they could log 25 to 28 million board feet a year, and Oregon Department of Forestry said, great, that's fine. That fulfills our constitutional requirement to contribute to the Common School Funds. Suddenly they've changed their mind. Suddenly they say 28 million board feet, oh, we have to contribute more than that. We have to contribute 40 or 45 million board feet. Otherwise, we aren't meeting our constitutional mandate. But they clearly said 25 did meet their constitutional mandate 15 years ago. And so they've been pressured to increase the logging on the Elliott quite a bit. You know, people like corporations like Roseburg Forest Products can't understand why they aren't logging as much as is being grown. Well, obviously it's because the Elliott needs to provide for other creatures on this earth besides ourselves. So you need to leave some for the spotted owl and for the martlet, for the coho salmon, for all the other wildlife that depends on the Elliott for its livelihood. Which is why is in 1995 they said 28 million board feet. That does it for us. That's great. And they accepted that. They made promises in 1995. They made 60-year commitments to not log in the western part of the Elliott, to keep some of the forests over 80 years old and another percentage over 150 years old. They made promises to keep about 22,000 acres in permanent reserves and a few other promises. This is all part of their commitment. Now, in 1995, when they started this plan that they're currently working under, there were 69 owls on or near the Elliott that depended on the Elliott for their livelihood. 69 spotted owls. Okay, under the Endangered Species Act, they weren't allowed to harm any of these owls at all. But there's a special provision in the Endangered Species Act that says for state or private landowners, they can get an exemption to take, another word for kill. They can take some endangered species if they protect other species over the long term. And this commitment is with the agency that oversees protection of the spotted owl. That's the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. Okay. So in 1995, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service gave ODF permission to take 43 spotted owls. And if they were allowed to take 43 spotted owls, they made a 60-year promise to protect habitat for the remaining 26 owls over 60 years. Right. They made that promise, and they took those 43 owls. Those 43 owls are no longer here. They're gone. Now it's time for them to keep their 60-year commitment. Instead, they want to log more, and so no scientist would sign off on their so-called scientific plan to log more, so they are just abandoning the need for scientists. They're going with the forest management plan. They're going to break all their 60-year commitments, like logging in the west side of the Elliott.
Editorial, an essay written for me by Roy Keane, and he pointed out that given this mandate that ODF has to provide funds to the Common Schools Fund, why are they allowing the sale of this timber at such a low rate? He represented that it was probably worth double, and he had some calculations that he used for that. Why are they selling this to, in this case, the Elkhorn Ranch sale, for example, is going to Roseburg Lumber through one of its subsidiaries, and why are they buying it at literally half price? Why do you have any? Why is ODF allowing that to happen?
Well, another example, an interesting sale is called the South Marlow Switch. Um, um, in 2007, the value of that sale was $850,000, and they didn't sell it. Nobody wanted to bid on it. The market was flush and with timber. And then in 2008, the markets fell. They re-advertised it for half the price, $485,000. And they were able to sell it at half its worth in 2008 from what it was worth in 2007. And I'm sure that that's the case with all these sales. They will go for more than double at another time. Right now, there's no demand for houses. There's no demand for wood products other than exporting. And so, hey, why are we increasing? Why are we almost doubling the logging rate on the Elliott when the demand is so low? It really makes no sense to sacrifice homes for our endangered species when we aren't getting anything for it, virtually.
Yeah, I agree.